Hello, everybody. Welcome to the United Nations Climate Change Conference. I'm Stephanie Ortega. I'm from Colombia. I'm leading an organization, BDH Group. We are working with the private sector and all organizations to face the climate change in Colombia and to work for a sustainability world. Here we are with Brimley Lindo, and he's leading the World View Impact Foundation. He's working with sustainable projects in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and he is developing important projects in India, and we want to know how you are protecting the mangroves and how you are facing the climate change and why you choose to protect the mangroves and why now you are recognizing like a leader in sustainability in the world.
Great. Thank you so much for welcoming us to Spain, to Madrid, on the 25th anniversary of the UN Climate Change Conference. And I'm very honored to be here in Spain. Like you said, I'm from Northeast India. And over the last 25 years, I've been working with smallholder farmers and restoring cloud forests in the mountain ecosystems where I call home. And the name of my state is called Meghalaya. It's a mountain state, and it means where the clouds come home. So that's why we have cloud forests, where we have clouded leopards, which are also endangered species. And in the lowlands, we have the Royal Bengal tiger, you know. Wow. That's where Rudyard Kipling wrote the Jungle Book about. But when Myanmar opened its border in 2012, my friends said, come over and help us. Let's restore mangrove ecosystem by the sea. So I went to Myanmar and fell in love with the mangrove ecosystem. I'm a mountain man, but then when I got to the ocean, I really fell in love with these miracle trees that we call the forest of the tide. So fast forward now, we've been working with 200 women and men, 70% mostly women, from different communities living in the delta region of Myanmar. And together they've been planting 6.5 million mangrove trees, different native species by the coast, to grow a living shield that protects from storms, hurricanes, tsunamis. And also as these mangrove trees grow, they look like little mangroves right behind us.
Yes.
They create fish, and 50% fish yield goes up. So that's why we call it the miracle tree. I know maybe in Colombia you might also have mangroves, but now, because of the high success rate of 86.75%, we want to scale this 6.5 million trees to 1 billion.
Wow.
That means we need to plant, 1 billion trees in 3 different states in Myanmar that will draw down 1 billion tons of carbon from the atmosphere. That's just carbon. Then they will protect millions of people living in the floodplains of Myanmar and produce fish, and they can address 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
1 tree. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, yes, it's amazing. But before of this, the people were living in poor conditions and without feeding. What is the most important impact in the community with this project? Yeah, in the community in terms of take food, economical situation. Tell me how this project
came about.
Came about and how involved the community and help them to have better conditions.
So when the project started in 2012, we got a grant from Latin Foundation for $3 million to train young people in 2 marine science departments in Patane and in Make. But they were marine science just in name. They didn't even have the equipment or test tubes. So we had to train the staff, train the teachers, train the students, send them to Thailand to get a fellowship, a scholarship, and then come back. and then equip their science labs, and then now those students who had to finish their PhD, their masters, their research are now the leaders leading the project, and they are then training the women and the men in the villages, in the community, and also involving the young people from the schools together. So now there's about 10 people in the main office working and 250 community members from 5 different villages all working together to protect mangroves. So these are the planters that have been trained by the Marine Science Department of the schools. So, and then they were cutting down the mangroves before because they didn't have any ways to survive.
Yes.
They were cutting it down for making shrimp production, for charcoal burning, and for fuel wood. So we cannot just go to poor people's home and say, stop cutting down trees and start conservation when they have to feed their families.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. So we say, okay, how much money you make from burning charcoal? How about you stop? We'll pay you double for planting trees, not for cutting, but you have to protect them. So while the men are in their boats fishing in the day, the women are in the forest collecting the seeds, raising in nursery, and planting their babies. So we create this connection, and all the charcoal burners are now part of the mangrove warriors planting mangrove, and no longer cutting them and protecting their babies. So now they're growing. So, but this trust had to be built over time. It cannot be done overnight. So that's why I spend a lot of time in the field working with these communities. And the most important thing now is that these nature-based solutions that everyone in COP is talking about can be used to fight climate change.
Yes.
Only nature can store carbon and release oxygen. One mangrove tree releases enough oxygen for 4 people. We're not talking about oxygen right now, but the world is running out of oxygen. Even the ocean is running out of oxygen. If the oxygen dries up, all the fish will die and the oceans will be dead. That's why this COP, which is under the presidency of Chile and being hosted by the Spanish government, is the blue COP.
Yes.
For blue carbon, for the ocean, for the mangroves. So that's why it's muy importante, as we say in Colombia.
Yes.
But tell me more also about what is happening in Colombia. You explained to me that you're from Cartagena. I've been there. I love the place, but there are issues with the cities expanding and chopping down of the mangrove, and it has a big impact in the community, in your city.
Yes, exactly. You know, Cartagena de Indias is the mainly Caribbean city in Colombia. It's the most important city in touristic in the country, and also is one of the most in Latin America. But also Cartagena, you know, that is a historical heritage of the humanity since 1886. But our city is also the second poorest city in the country and one of the unequal in the world. But not only that, the UNESCO had included Cartagena in the list of the 31 cultural cities that have more challenge facing the climate change. And that's because the city was growing in the mangrove areas. Yeah? And you know that generates erosion.
Yes.
And that erosion now is affecting the industry, the people, all the coastline. There are insular zone in Cartagena that a lot of houses have been destroyed because of the erosion, and now the climate change is fighting with the city. So we have 86% of the historical heritage in risk. We have 35% of the industry in risk, and now also we have 26 neighborhoods that are poor neighborhoods that also are in high risk of inundation and disaster. So it's urgent for our city to face the climate change and to take the climate change like one of the most important issues to face in the city. And we are working with the government and with the private sector and to solve mangroves, because mangroves can help reduce that risk, and that's one of the most important solutions for this. And also we need to adaptate a neighborhood in Cartagena the city have the project, right? This Boston project, Boston neighborhood, where live almost 14,000 people that live in very, very poor conditions, in house made by wood, by zinc or plastic. And imagine that people facing with inundation and also, well, with all the disasters that came with the climate change. So now we are here at COP also looking for solutions, partnerships, and we want that the world know that Cartagena it's a historical patrimony for all the humanity, and also need that the world focus on this city and help this city to face the climate change. So it's very impressive the work that you are doing in the India, because you are working for almost 5 SDG now.
6 SDGs, yeah.
6
in Myanmar, in Burma.
In Myanmar, and you are working with the community. You are empowering the community. You are helping the community to increase their incomes, and also to protect the environment. And we want to know more about this project, and we want to scale that project.
That's exactly why we're here, is building partnerships. So, and this is to first test the model in Myanmar and then replicate it in 126 mangrove harboring countries around the world, including Colombia. I just met your minister and the Bank of Colombia at the Inter-American Development Bank, and they want to finance projects, so maybe we should talk to have a meeting with them and scale. But another thing I want to share with you is in 2017, Worldview Impact Foundation, together with Biocarbon Engineering, won the Bridge Builder Challenge. You know, while Trump was calling for people to build a wall with Mexico, the Pope in the Vatican said, no, we need to build bridges, not walls. Exactly. So he called for a challenge for projects from around the world that will bridge humanity. So we proposed this project to help the people of Myanmar and use tree planting, the drones that fly and plant trees, map and plant. So we out of 750 projects from around the world, the GHR Foundation picked 5 projects from around the world, and our project was one of them that got funded. And we used that grant to test the technology of artificial intelligence, of drones flying by themselves, satellite mapping with NASA data from space, and people. So space to soil and soil to space. So we are really using space technology to help restore fragile ecosystems on Earth. But without NASA, I could not convince the government of Myanmar or any funders to show, because NASA satellites have been scanning the Delta region of Myanmar back in 2012 when we started. And they say only 15% is left. If nothing is done to intervene, there will be nothing left by 2030. All mangroves will be gone because the ecosystem would collapse. So I'm very grateful to GHR Foundation, the Bridge Builder Challenge, which you also should look, maybe for Latin America, for colleagues to apply for it next year, so that we can get funding for your projects and help create jobs, sustainable jobs, and livelihoods for young people in Latin America, and work with the development banks here and use blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, all combined to speed up the restoration of these beautiful ecosystems by the sea.
Wow.
The blue cup, right?
Oh, that's wonderful.
So this could be something we can talk and discuss together and bring the impact investors from these multilateral banks or the GEF or the GCF to finance projects at the regional level in Latin America. I think it's very important. And work together with also indigenous peoples, you know. Their voices are not heard in these conferences like COP. So we need to engage them in the planning of the projects, in the designing of the project, and they should be the leaders, the custodians, and the warriors to protect this forest. And I feel very sad what is happening in Brazil, the destruction of the rainforest and the forest burning. And forests are burning everywhere. And those people living in the rainforest, they are at risk. So we need to protect them. Exactly. Also on the land, but also by the sea, both.
Yes, and well, I'm impressive because that's what we want. We need to know how the technology can help us to achieve the goals, the SDG goals, and that's wonderful because the fourth industrial revolutions help to be sustainable. And now who don't be sustainable will not stay. And that's we are doing also with the private sector. We are getting awareness about the sustainability and that it's now in the front of line.
Yes.
It's not in the back office, it's on the front of line. And the climate change is something that everybody needs to be focused and face. And I want that you tell me how have been you working also with private sector?
Yes. So when we got this grant, we planted 3 million trees. And after that, when the private sector saw the success of the project and the survival rate of 86.75%, Starboard and a helicopter company from Norway, a shipping company, are now coming in, and they are also planting mangroves with us. So Starboard, which is also started by a Norwegian Olympic medal, Svein Rasmussen, for every board they sell, they plant a mangrove tree in Myanmar. So he's planted like almost 1 million trees by himself. So he has his own forest with 1 million trees. So if one small company can plant like 1 million trees, I expect like every other companies to plant hundreds of millions of trees, especially oil mining companies, oil, gas, and shell, all the big fossil fuel companies that have been extracting from the planet, from Pachamama for the last 50 years, they need to plant like billions of trees, billions, literally, or else you cannot do business in the dead planet. What's the use, right? I mean, how much money are you going to take with you? You can't. But if the planet is dead, there is no more business.
Yes. And how was your strategy?
Well, the strategy was first to engage with the community, to build a team, the local team, engage the university, build a strong research team, engage the schools, the young people who will be the next warriors of the mangroves. Once the local team is built, they have the competence, they have the equipment, they have the tools, they have the training, then the people feel the credible team is built, they will come, investors will come. They just want a story and they want to engage. And I think if this model works, like I said, we can help all the small island states around the world and all the least developing countries that are under threat from climate change to restore little trees like these guys. I love it, like the little mangroves, and fight climate change by the sea and also try to achieve the sustainable development goals. That's a win-win.
And well, the most important question in achieve the sustainable goals, how you can raise that money to do the project.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's important question because everybody think, okay, well, and how you get the money and how you can scale up the project
rapidly.
Yeah, because you know that.
Yeah, so you know Greta, one little girl from Sweden, 15 years old, she mobilized millions of young people and the young at heart around the world on Friday March. And I was with her marching, 500,000 people in the streets of Madrid. The next march will be next Friday. Imagine if those 500,000 people marching in the streets of Madrid with a cell phone, with an app, and you have an app in Colombia, and they have 10 euros, and you want to plant 10 mangrove trees. So 500,000 young people with 10 euros, so that's 5 million euros. And you have like land to plant 5 million. Each one press an app directly from this phone, e-wallet, to your wallet, and you start planting. So they are marching in the streets, asking governments to wake up, but also they take action by planting 5 million trees right away on the ground. This is the power of connecting young people with e-wallets technology to the blockchain, through ledger technologies for quick transfer of funds, not waiting for governments and politicians to give them money, to give them funds. Every young person who cares can take action, can be in the streets, but also help the other young person in Africa, in Latin America, and Asia that doesn't have money, but has land to plant, to grow trees, to grow food, to restore ecosystems. So youth to youth, peer-to-peer lending, immediate, in seconds, without going through banks, without waiting for governments, without waiting for big development banks. This can be done right now, and we have this technology.
Wow, excellent. So you are doing that. You have been
You're developing
doing
these
yeah?
blockchain technologies to do that, which is distributed ledger technology. But of course, you have to have the law in Colombia, a regulation to enforce that, so that the transfer of these assets can happen, digital assets from my phone to your phone. It's already happening in Africa. They send a text message and transfer like money to their son, their daughters in school, just by text message. So why not? We can use that technology, like M-Pesa, to transfer currency to phones, to go buy food, plant trees, like that. So I think the young people in Europe could transfer a bit of money or resources or whatever I have to plant trees around the world, like billions of trees of each person. All that energy of young people marching in the streets, calling their governments to action, could also translate to action of restoring and planting trees in the developing countries, in the most high-risk countries.
Wow! Oh, excellent. So, well, I invite you to come to Cartagena.
Yes,
to come
I will be honored to come back.
Yes, come back to Cartagena with this project, with this technology. It's time to think also in how we can share this important technology in all the world, and to motivate the young people, the government, and all the actors to be protagonists. And I think that this led us that...
The most important thing is that the young people should have their own bank, as a nature's bank, or the Earth Bank. Actually, there's a group that is working on Earth Bank. If you check out their website, earthbank.io, and they're creating a nature-based bank to reward people around the world who are restoring Pachamama, who are restoring the planet, who are healing the planet. So we need to shift the balance from extraction to restoration.
Yes.
So the books of economics need to change, because the old economics books are wrong. The way we measure GDP doesn't account for human capital, for natural capital, and cultural capital of indigenous people. So my professor in Columbia University, Joseph Stiglitz, said that GDP is wrong. So the measurement of our countries is wrong. They need to account natural capital, human capital, and social capital and cultural capital together. Then people who protect mangroves or forests or wetlands or deserts or, organic farming can get reward through this accounting system, a new way of accounting system that is good for the planet.
Yes, so let's protect the mangroves in Colombia too, and Latin America.
Yes.
Yes, we want that worldwide foundation be here also, and
yes,
motivating all the
definitely
organizations and all the young people to doing this.
Great. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for Colombia.
Give me a hug.
Yes, great.